Welcome to Lead the Way with Anna Gauker. Your guide, Anna Gauker, is on a quest of her own to find effective ways of creating change and inclusion in our communities. You have come to the right place if you believe in truth, justice, and coffee. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, this is Lead the Way, and I'm Anna Gauker. Today, we have a great show for you, speaking about an important issue. Did you know that 55,000 adults in Dane County struggle with literacy? Enough to fill more than 3 Kohl Centers. That's according to Literacy Network of Dane County. And in this episode, I will be speaking with their executive director, Jeff Burkhart. We had a terrific conversation about the important work they do. I hope you get as much out of it as I did.
I grew up in Indiana and I went to college at Indiana University, and I really enjoyed being there. And I was the first person in my family to go to college, and I struggled a lot with the skills that I needed to be a good student. But I had a really great professor who took me aside one day and said, I believe you can do it and you can be a good student. And I saw myself differently, and that really helped me to kind of get on the right path, and completed college, and did well.
So you had that particular instructor while you were in college?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you talk to me a bit about, you said you didn't have other people in your family who had been in college before. What made you choose that if school was kind of not a natural fit for you?
Well, I would say I was always interested in writing, and I was interested in becoming a writer of some sort. I didn't quite know what that meant, and so I went to journalism school. I was active with the school newspaper in high school, and I went to journalism school at Indiana, and it was actually a journalism professor named Claude Cookman who was very influential, so that that was, I was always interested in doing something like that, but I just didn't have a good template. And my parents were very encouraging of me to do that, but just a lot of the things that I think other students might have had who maybe had parents who had gone to college, I just didn't have those skills.
Well, that's really cool though, because I feel like for a lot of people, half the battle is setting your expectations a little higher than you might otherwise think on your own, and having people around you that encourage you to push yourself as far as possible is so important.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was really the reason that I decided I wanted to volunteer in some way. And I was looking for things to do when I was still in Bloomington, and I volunteered at a literacy organization, adult literacy, and I helped a man named Juan who had 3 kids and 3 jobs, and he struggled with finding the time to meet, but I could see that it really made a difference, not only for him but also for his family. And that was just a real eye opener for me to know that such an organization existed, and that there was such a great need among adults for literacy skills, for English language and reading and writing skills. And that kind of set me on that path. And I took an opportunity in Durham, North Carolina, when I was like 23 or 24, and I was able to become an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer, and that opened a lot of doors for me. I taught GED classes and computer skills classes, and my GED class had a lot of really great people in it who, and you know, I think in a lot of ways the educational system had failed them. They had you know, dropped out of school, and they were all close to my age, like 20s, you know, early 20s. And I can remember one student in particular named Janie, who she was fleeing her abusive husband and had 2 kids. They were young. I think they were like 3 and 5. And she always would say to me, you know, I'm stupid. I can't do this. And she was very dyslexic. She had a hard time writing. And I just kept telling her, you know, you're not stupid. You can do this. You are, you know, you absolutely can do it. And she just kept working. And I don't think that my teaching was as influential as my just saying, I believe that you can do it. And I think that a lot of adult learners really experience that sort of, you know, need for somebody else, some external factor to say, you can achieve what you want to achieve, and I believe in you. And that's what I needed, and I think that's what a lot of our students need. And Janie, you know, after I left, I was there for 2 years, and when I moved up here, it was in 2000. Janie, I gave my my address to everybody on an envelope and gave them a stamp and asked them to write me a letter. She wrote me a 3-page letter about 4 months after I moved up here. And she told me that she got her GED and that she was enrolled in nursing school. She was going to be a CNA, but she eventually wanted to be a nurse. And she said that she never would have done it if I had not told her that she could do it. And so that really cemented for me the concept of having the support system in your life when you want to achieve something new. And that's really the foundation for me of what adult literacy does and why it's so important. And we provide that wraparound for our students, and we make sure that they are prepared in their lives to do great things.
Was it your experience in AmeriCorps that showed you wanted to kind of take a turn in your career and get into your current line of work? I mean, you said that you started out in journalism.
Yeah.
They don't seem like a natural link, but I see how you've taken that kind of winding path.
I think absolutely that was, you know, the starting point was volunteering at a literacy organization, and then taking that step as an AmeriCorps volunteer then gave me a lot more skills and frankly a lot of connections to the work. It gave me actual experience in program management, which has really helped me in so many ways to build programming. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, I definitely had a lot of positive influence from the AmeriCorps program.
You started out in Indiana, you went to North Carolina. What brought you to Wisconsin?
While I was living in North Carolina, I met my current partner, my wife, who had gone to law school here in Wisconsin. So she moved to North Carolina, and then we decided together to move up here to Madison.
And you went to law school, or she went to law school?
No, she had gone to law school here.
Okay.
At UW.
And she told you it was a wonderful place and you needed to check it out?
That's right. Yeah. And I fell in love with it when I first visited as well. So,
what was it about the area that you liked so much?
Well, I've always loved being uh, in a place where you have easy access to outdoor activities, and I was looking for something that was maybe had kind of a nice mix of kind of outdoor, rural stuff, and urban things as well. And I think Madison is just kind of the perfect mix of those things, and so that's what made me really fall in love with it. The lakes are beautiful. I was able to bike everywhere when I first visited, and I just thought it was really great.
Was it the middle of winter?
No, it was the middle of summer.
Okay. Well, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
What was your first job when you moved here?
I worked at a mega school for about 3 weeks. Had a part-time gig, and that I had lined that up right before I moved here. So I was working just a few hours a week there, and pretty soon I made some connections, and I got a job at Forward Service Corporation in the Dane County Job Center. And my job was to facilitate occupational skills training for adults in the W-2 and food stamp programs. And it was great. I really enjoyed it, and worked there for, I think, about 4 years. And it was a great opportunity. So I really, really got to learn how to build programs and make connections with people there.
You loved working at the Dane County Job Center?
Yeah, surprisingly enough, right?
Tell me more.
No, I really did. I really enjoyed it.
What did you love so much about it?
Well, the great diversity of people that I got to interact with. The students that we had in our programs were, of course, people from the United States, but there was a great deal of people from other countries. There was a large population of students from Kosovo, because that was about the time when a lot of refugees from Kosovo had come. So I got to meet many people from Kosovo, many people from all over the world, and then just really great people who were who had just struggled throughout their lives, and I absolutely believed that they could do better, and they could find their way. And I think a lot of people did. And it's a struggle for so many people to just find something that works for them and find a way to support their family. And I think that just really opened a lot of doors, and really opened my eyes to the challenges that people face in their lives.
When I was in grad school, I was an intern in that building down the hall. And I definitely agree that there's important resources available, and you can have great interactions with people. But I felt like the building itself was like kind of sucks your soul out a little bit. Like, I never understood how people are supposed to come and plan their future and think bigger and set their goals higher in a room where like the plants are dying. You know what I'm saying? Like, just feels like not the most inspiring way to do it.
I actually was in there was an annex at the time. It's called the Career Expectation Center. So it was the building that's right next to the job center. So that's where my office was, and it was still kind of it was in the strip mall, and it wasn't super inspiring, but I felt like there was a different atmosphere in that building than in the actual job center itself.
I guess I needed to venture out a little bit farther.
That doesn't exist anymore. They stopped and they closed that section, and it's now something different.
It was too nice. Too nice.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it was just a budget. Budget decision.
Exactly. So what did you do after that?
Well, I went to work at UW Hospital, and I was one of the programs that we designed in my work at the job center was a pharmacy tech program, and I got to know hiring managers and pharmacy managers at a lot of different places. And UW Health was one of the great supporters of that program. I think about 10 or 15 people were hired over the course of maybe a year and a half or so into the pharmacy program. And so I knew people. My organization, I mentioned that budget issue with the Career Expectation Center because my organization, my agency was laid off from the job center. So 30 of us were laid off at the end of 2003. And so then I was looking for a job, but that was one of those things that opened up for me. And then, I worked there. I worked then at for the state of Wisconsin in the Department of Health Services. One of the fun things that I got to do in my career was help to expand the Badger Care program. So at the time we funded, the state was funding a Badger Care Plus program, which opened the door to health insurance for tens of thousands of people, childless adults at that time. So that was really exciting. So my job was to promote the Badger Care program, the expansion of it.
How did you approach that?
Working with community organizations, and that was just so much fun. We had a grant program. We were able to help community organizations pay for the work that they would do to get people enrolled in the program. And I think there were about 200 organizations that were working with us. And it was just really fun. I got to travel around the state, got to meet people in various areas and kind of explain what the eligibility requirements were. So it was a really fun job. And I was really excited to be able to do that.
What was the most unexpected experience you had when you were traveling around promoting the program?
I think the most unexpected thing was probably just the great need that the city of Milwaukee has, probably to this day, I'm sure, for all kinds of different services. I had no idea, how much there was in Milwaukee that needed to be done, and how kind of close everything is. Milwaukee is geographically not a huge place, and just the great need that exists there. And I was really pleasantly surprised by the amazing social justice folks in Milwaukee and other places around the state, just like how organized people are and how willing to help support their community. There's just such a great sense of pride in a lot of places around the state that we want to help people as much as we can. I saw that in La Crosse and Wausau and of course Milwaukee, and here in Madison. There's just such a great coalition of organizations and people who want to get involved. So I think that was the moment I really just fell in love with the state of Wisconsin, in the ways in which we pull together and we try and get things done and try and help each other.
Do you think that things have changed over the years in terms of the need that's out there and what needs to be addressed?
I think things have changed politically for sure. And it's been really tough for all of us, I think, really. No matter what your political persuasion is, it's been, seeing the sort of divisiveness that we've experienced over the last 10 years or so has been really challenging.
Yeah, that's when I got here.
I'm sorry?
That's when I arrived.
That's when you arrived? About 10 years ago?
Yep.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I feel like I felt quite the initiation.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
What did I
Yeah,
miss
absolutely.
before?
Well, I can only, I have a fairly limited experience, um, but my experience in about 2007 or so, when I was working at DHS, was that there was a lot of interest in just really supporting our communities. And I think that still exists. And I don't think that it's exclusive to any political persuasion. I think people do want to get involved and they want to help in whatever way they can. And maybe your perception of what that need is and where it originates is different. But I think people do want to do their best to help. Badger Care was established by Tommy Thompson initially, and it was expanded by Jim Doyle. So I think there's this sort of spirit of you know getting together and trying to do things for the betterment of society. I still think that core is there. I think that we've definitely lost our way in the last 10 years on the bipartisan nature of that. But the reason that I really wanted to get involved in nonprofits and doing this kind of work is that I do see that there are opportunities for us to bring people together and for us to support people who want to help themselves. And that's what adult literacy is to me, really, at its core, is that our students at Literacy Network are very interested in helping themselves and doing the work, and just having somebody who is guiding them on that pathway. So, we see so many students, and of course, during COVID, we're not physically together, but the Zoom classes that we're in, we just see all of our students coming and doing their best to persevere, to overcome the challenges that they're facing. And those challenges, they just keep on growing, with COVID, and they are not giving up. They are just continuing to do the work. We just I'm just so inspired by that. So, I'm doing my best to control what I have in my domain. Can control the controllables, and making sure that we are able to support our students to the best of our ability.
When did you join the Literacy Network?
September of 2008. And that was a challenging time because the recession had just really kicked in hard at that point. And so it was a tough first couple of years. But we had good staff. That was the key from my standpoint, was I had good people that I was able to work with, and we were able to turn things around.
And how have things changed with the organization since the time that you started?
Well, the time that I started, we were in a small former cheese shop, and it was already feeling too tight. With only, I think we had 5 full-time staff and several interns and part-time staff. But it was a very hilarious experience in some ways to stand outside and watch all the people file into that little building and then file out. We did a lot with that little space, and so I knew that we would need to do something to address that issue. And so, after several years of really working on building programs and building connections with people in the community, we were able to purchase and renovate the building that I'm in right now, which is a little farther south on Park Street. It's at 701 Dane Street. And it's a much, much bigger space. And we of course weren't counting on a global pandemic closing us down, but it has a lot of capacity. We moved here in 2016, and we have a lot more capacity for classes. So our staff expanded significantly as well. We have 18 mostly full-time staff, a few are part-time. And then we also have hundreds of volunteers who support the work by tutoring adult learners in our programs.
what all had to come together for the literacy network to move into its current location? It sounds like
There were a
a
lot.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of pieces. I would say the first thing that happened, and this was that by no means, sequentially planned or strategized. It just, things kept growing because we were doing good work. Um, One of the first things that we were able to do was build a health literacy program, which, was a partnership with St. Mary's Hospital. And I had no idea how influential that would be. And it's a partnership that exists to this day. We proposed that we could possibly do classes at the hospital. For one reason, we had very little space in our current building, but another reason was we really wanted our students to feel comfortable in an environment of care. A lot of our students did not feel comfortable going to the hospital or clinic, and didn't really know a lot of the sort of the systems language, the skills that they would need to interact with healthcare. So we taught English language skills specific to healthcare, and a lot of concepts about health insurance, about how to talk to your doctor or nurse. And so long story short, we were able to build a program with St. Mary's, which then expanded to other health systems. But that initial connection with St. Mary's helped us to build a relationship with the senior management there at St. Mary's Hospital, because they would drive by our building every day on their way to the hospital. And then when I found out that the building that I'm currently in, which was the Winger Clinic, it became vacated when the Winger Clinic moved. It was owned by St. Mary's Hospital, or SSM Health as it is called now. And we built such a good relationship that they agreed to hold the building for us. They agreed to sell it to us for less than half the appraised value. And we were able to raise the funds to purchase, with the help of the city of Madison, and several other donors. And then we renovated, and it took a couple of years for us to make that happen. But what a great community asset, and what a great partnership that we built with St. Mary's in particular, but also many, many other organizations, businesses. The Madison Library System is such a great partner. The Madison schools and other school districts are great partners with us as well. So I would say that the key ingredient to making this happen was really partnerships on many different levels, in service to adult learning.
What exactly do you think put that all in the works? Like you're talking
Mhm.
about all of the different people that needed to come together and make it happen. And you're talking to executives in the hospital. Did you bring it up or did they bring it up? Like, we'd love to give you a building. What do you think?
Well, if I remember correctly, I had a conversation with Frank Byrne, who I'd met only a handful of times, just at various community things. And he was at the time the president of St. Mary's Hospital. And what a great community-minded person Frank is. I mean, he still lives here in Madison. He's retired from that position, but just a really kind and community-connected person. And he said, I think our initial conversation was about our mutual relationship with the Wall Family Enterprises and Demco, who had supported Literacy Network for a long time, and they also supported the expansion of the hospital. And so that was kind of our initial connection. And then him knowing that we had a program at the hospital, that had been so wonderfully supported by their team. That was kind of our connection. And then I just learned through talking with people that they own this building. And we had been looking for, gosh, I want to say about a year or so, um, when we learned that this was a possibility. So he was the one who set up an initial meeting with their chief operating officer. And I was ready for like a hardball kind of negotiation, and it was not that at all. It was, they sat down at the table. They were very kind. They said, well, we know it's worth X, but we are, we're willing to negotiate with you. Whatever you propose, just let us know. Our initial offer was, like it was about uh, less than half. It was less than half the appraised value of the building, and they took the offer right away. And so there was no, and they gave us a long financing contingency. So it was just such a great experience for me to know that people believed in what we do so much that they weren't really that interested in making a profit from this space as much as they were interested in helping an organization to grow and serve the community.
Can you talk to me a bit about the services that the Literacy Network offers?
Sure. So we work with adult learners who are working on their English language skills and their reading and writing skills and computer skills. And we help them to build confidence in their ability to communicate. We help them to achieve US citizenship. We help them to achieve a high school equivalency diploma. We help them to find better work, making connections with the workforce. Many of our students take more hours or they feel more confident in communicating with their coworkers and their supervisor. Some of them get better jobs, some of them get promotions. And that's really our main goal. And we also, I think it's also very important that our students feel like they're a part of our community. And we help them to feel that as well. So I'm very proud of the staff and the volunteers for just meeting students where they are and doing an initial interview with everybody who comes in for programming and just asking them what they want to be able to do. And then really persistently helping them get there. And so that's what we've built.
What is your outreach like? How do you get the word out about what you do and help people find you?
We rely on word of mouth a lot. We also have great partners in the community that we work with. The Madison Library System helps us to promote what we're doing, and they help to recruit. And the Madison Schools also, because we have partnerships with them, we work with a lot of community centers when we were meeting face to face, we would have classes at various community centers. But we're now doing Zoom classes with people in various communities, like Kennedy Heights Neighborhood Center. And we also work with La Movida Radio, and they have been such a powerful force to help us recruit students. If we go on the program, a radio program for maybe half an hour to an hour, and just talk about what we do, we get, like the last time we did it, we got about 75 or 80 calls for people who wanted to take classes with us. All of our programs are free. We do ask students to invest in materials that they use. It's usually about a $30 investment, but we have a scholarship program as well if they cannot afford to pay. The classes are all designed for people with low income and people who intend to stay here in Madison, as their home. So we work with a very specific group of folks, but we rarely have a hard time finding people to fill our classes, even during COVID. We know that it's much more of a challenge because of the technology and because of life circumstances that people they're experiencing now with, you know, losing their jobs and having, you know, hopefully not very many impacted by COVID, by getting COVID. But we just know it's very hard for our students to focus on studying. However, we've been able to manage to keep about 85 to 90% of our students during this period of time, which is quite an achievement, I think, and a big statement about the need of our students.
What was the radio station you mentioned?
And La Movida, it's a Spanish language radio program, or a radio station rather.
Is it local here?
Yeah, 1480 AM.
Oh, all right. Awesome.
Yeah.
You were talking before about how things have become so divided in Wisconsin. What do you think needs to happen to change that? And do you think that the literacy network can be part of that conversation?
I think we are a part of it. I think understanding and listening to each other is key. Because we know that when our tutors and students get together, when they communicate with one another, there is such a connection of respect and just really honor that emerges from that relationship. And I think on a small scale, what we do is something that should happen around the country, quite frankly. And that's having a conversation with somebody who's different than you and trying to understand your common humanity, and finding ways that you can connect with somebody, you know, no matter what your background, you know, finding a way to understand that other person's reality. And I think that on a small scale, that's really what we do and what many other literacy organizations do around the country. We give opportunities to people to learn about other people who are not like them.
Do you feel like you're able to engage with people in Wisconsin who might not understand that right away?
Well, you know, our service area is Dane County, and so we focus on what we can do here in our service area. I think there's opportunities for probably other organizations to take the mantle and do that kind of work, and a lot of people are connecting, you know, trying to make those connections across a wide variety of different divides. So, you know, I think that's the work that needs to happen, and it's not like a quick fix. It's kind of a long-term project.
What do you think the current state of adult literacy is in Madison?
Well, the estimates are that about 55,000 adults in Dane County struggle with literacy. And that's enough to fill 3 Kohl Centers and then some. And so we know that's a huge number of people who may not be able to communicate with their doctor or, you know, understand a label in a grocery store, who may struggle to find meaningful work that they really want to do because their literacy skills hold them back. And so we know that's a big need. And we also know that it takes a lot of connection for us to get this work done. And that's why we really build connections with a lot of different community organizations to do the work. And it's definitely not that's not a quick fix either. You know, the educational component takes a couple of years at least for most of our students most of them are starting at lower levels. And we know that it takes at least 100 hours of study to move up one level. But we also know that with 100 hours of study, the likelihood of somebody earning more in their adult career is much, much greater. There was a study that came out of Portland, Oregon, looking at people over a 10-year period and looking at people who took part in adult education and those who didn't. And with 100 hours or more of study, they saw an average increase in earnings of $9,600 per year among those who participated in adult education at least 100 hours. And that was something that happened over like a 5-year period, typically. And those were sustained. Those increases in earnings are sustained. And we actually see that on a smaller scale here in Madison with our students who, I know a few of the refugee students who started with us in 2010. These are Bhutanese refugees who arrived about 10 years ago. And I've seen several people just really blossom here in Madison from coming from a country that's very different with no English language skills. And they just worked and worked, and they started to understand things. They became citizens. They bought houses. They started businesses. Their kids, became college students. And it's all because they had an opportunity to learn. And we opened that door for them. So literacy for them and for many other people is access to the life that many of us take for granted in this town. And so I think there's just so many opportunities, and there's such great need. And we've demonstrated time and time again that we're effective in addressing that need. So we're always looking for people to volunteer, to help us out, to get involved in sharing the word about what we do, and getting other people to engage. So I'm just really excited about where we are right now. Even though COVID is just really put all of us in a really bad spot in a lot of ways. I think this period of time has really impressed upon me how incredibly powerful this persistence is among our students.
Do you feel like the virtual format is as effective as what you were doing before?
I think it's probably not as effective, but it's the best thing we can do right now.
Right.
And but I've been surprised at how effective it truly is. I've been surprised by how many students are able to connect to us via Zoom, and how many of our students are still achieving their goals despite this whole pandemic. So we connected many of our students with basic needs services, food, shelter, income assistance. And that was, we really had to shift very quickly in the month of March to help our students, most of whom lost work. Some of them lost their jobs entirely. Others lost hours at work, but more than 50% of our students were impacted in that way. And these are folks who work on the front lines. They're the folks who work in restaurants and in cleaning buildings and that sort of thing. And they were the ones who were let go the earliest. So our students quite literally are the ones who are most impacted by the pandemic economically. And if you look at statistics, our students are among those who are probably the most vulnerable to having their health impacted by the pandemic.
Will you talk a little more about the link between poverty and literacy?
It's a great question. Yeah, there is a clear link. I would have to look at the stats, but I know that there's a great prevalence of correlation between poverty and low literacy. And it makes intuitive sense that in our information economy that a person would fall behind very quickly if they don't understand how to deal with the written word or how to understand English. So it's definitely so what we do is poverty reduction by giving people the skills that they need to increase their earnings. We're helping them to get out of poverty.
How do you want people to get involved? You said before that you're encouraging volunteers. What would you
Yeah.
like to see more people engaging in?
Well, our spring semester, we optimistically call January our spring semester. It starts the second or third week of January. And folks can go to our website at litnetwork.org. There's a volunteer tab there. Each semester, hundreds of volunteers meet weekly with tutors, with learners one-on-one. And they help with reading and writing, with speaking English. They help them with their basic computer skills or preparing to complete a high school diploma. We have a great team of staff and interns who plan every lesson for the students. So the volunteers come and deliver those lessons, and they then report back to us on how it went. So they're an integral part of what we do. And by and large, every volunteer who I've talked to says that they have a great experience. They really are grateful to the interns who do a wonderful job of planning the lessons, and our staff are very supportive. So I think our volunteers all have a great experience in working with the learners that they get an opportunity to work with. We do ask people to be 18 years old or more. There's a short orientation and there's ongoing support for all of our volunteers.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. This has been so good.
Thanks, Anna. It was really great to talk with you.
That was Jeff Burkhart. It was great to talk to him as always. Thanks, Jeff, for taking the time. Make sure you check out their website, litnetwork.org, for everything you need to know. All episodes of Lead the Way can be found on Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, and make sure to rate and review when you subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Shout out to Buzz Kemper for his voiceover artistry in the opening. This episode was brought to you by the time and talent of Tyler Willenbrink, Annie Petrus, and Jeremy Van Mill. I'm Anna Gaucher. Until next time.